Hi, and welcome to the IAFM podcast. I am so excited to have you here. Today's conversation has been long overdue. When I first started thinking about having a podcast, this guy was the first person I thought of that I want to do a chat with. He has been my friend for almost 15 years, and he has had such a profound impact on my life when it comes to personal growth and personal development. In the talk, you'll learn about his skepticism many years ago about personal growth and development, and how that changed, evolved through meeting his now fiancé, his overcoming his fears, his challenges as a man to now teach, lead, and guide men all over the world. I am extremely excited for you to tune in for my chat with Kevin Bruce Scott. Hi, I'm Serge. I'm a husband, a father, a technical sales rep, and I'm also the founder and project developer of the IAFM League, a personal development league for men. And one of my missions is to give men the chance to have fun and challenge themselves while building consistency and growth in their lives. And this is my podcast. Here, I'll speak with everyday men, just like you and me, to discuss their struggles, their successes, their passions, and desires to becoming the best version of themselves. So thanks for joining, and welcome to the IAFM podcast. Hi, and welcome to the IAFM podcast. Serge here, and I'm extremely excited about today's call because when I first set up this podcast, Kevin, you were the first person I thought of. I was like, I didn't initially think of doing a podcast, but I was like, Kevin, I got to talk with him because you have been such an inspiration in my life, in my path, in essentially creating the IAFM League, my experience in TWOM, and I appreciate it greatly. So I want to introduce everybody to Kevin Bruce Scott. Thank you so much for being here, Kevin. How are you?
It is my absolute pleasure. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. And, one of the reasons I'm excited about today's call is because your story is very inspiring. And I think it is a little bit different than a lot of people who are into coaching and personal development, because we've known each other almost 15 years, I think, at this point, if not more. We met through, which is wild and amazing, but we met through another company that we used to work with. That's how I met you. And the Kevin back then that I met, we clicked right away. We had, and we've been friends ever since, and I'm extremely grateful for that. And I want you on today's call because I want to share your journey, because I know the Kevin back then and the Kevin now are different people. We all evolve, we all grow, but you have an amazing story that I think a lot of people, especially a lot of men, need to hear. Kevin, now you are, and we're going to get to this later on, you're now coaching, you've created coaching men, you've created platforms for this, the Effortless Alpha and the Word of Man, which I'm part of and have been for a few years now, and it's had a significant impact and profound impact on my life, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So I want to dive into that. But before we get into all that, I want to go to the beginning, to the very beginning. Essentially, starting out when you grew up on a farm, and we're going to go through this. You can add things or correct me, but you grew up on a farm. So there's a discipline and work ethic that you learn as a child, as a teenager, as a young man. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that, if that has stayed with you, which I believe it has, but how, and that transitioned into, because you didn't stay on the farm, that led you to pursue other things. So I want you to talk a little bit about leaving the farm and what you were pursuing at that point.
Okay. So yeah, I grew up on an apple farm, apples and sweet corns. So lots of physical manual labor, day in, day out. Got to have, a lot of time off in the winter, which was nice. But yeah, the work ethic was really drilled into me as a child, and you work hard to earn your money. That's the farm life. You work really hard for long hours to earn money so that you can do the things that you want to do. And I, as a teenager, I kind of didn't want to do the farm life thing, so I went to school for electronics, something practical. I was very practical. I was actually accepted into university for environmental biology, but I thought, I'm just gonna have to work for the government. I'll get paid like 25 grand a year for my entire life on research grants or something. I don't even know how it works, but there's no money in that. So let me go into something there's money in electronics. This is great. I hated it. I did not like it at all. It was not my passion.
So it wasn't sorry to interrupt, but it wasn't an influence. It wasn't an influence from family, or it was just
the practicality was.
Okay.
The smart decision, the where am I going to be able to get a job where I could work hard and make money? Yeah. So that definitely came from the farm. And so I did that job for, a year and a half, and then I quit that job and I went into retail and I did that job. And I was in every job that I had, I would work my way up to the top of that, that particular brick and mortar business as a manager very quickly because of my work ethic. I'm like, this is simple. I just go in and I do a couple things on a computer. I just have to talk to people. I don't have to do hard physical labor. This is easy. Everybody thought I was crazy. Like, how are you working so much? This is crazy. I'm like, easy. But eventually I got hired from all kinds of different jobs. And so, and working on went back to work on the farm. And that didn't pan out either. I did that for 6 years. And then my uncle came to me one day and
like management position roles, go back to the farm.
Yeah. Yeah. And my uncle basically says, it's a small hobby farm, but we've got basically 4 families, both my dad and my uncle and my cousin and I, trying to make a living on a small hobby farm. It's not going to work. So he says, you got to decide whether you want to be a farmer for the rest of your life. I was like,
wow,
don't really want to do that. So I left the farm and I went into more different businesses and retail and then finance and just job after job that nothing was me. Right. Just trying to figure out what I want to do. And through all this, of course, I'm doing stage acting and community theater and whatnot. That's more my passion. I have this thing in the back of my head, well, maybe someday I'll get discovered and I'll be an actor, and that's going to be fantastic. Move to Vancouver and get this job in a sales company where we're doing demonstrations. So anybody that knows Serge probably knows this story from here on out, because this is where I met Serge, and Serge trained me to do this job. And I, again, worked my way up into management of this company. And
I remember,
just wasn't.
I don't know if you remember this. I remember when we first met and you were getting into becoming a trainer. And I asked you, I said, Kevin, what do you want, like, from this company? And you said, and it was, I forget what the role is, like national director or whatever it was, the overseeing all of Canada. And you're like, I want that role. And I think within 6 months or so, you had it. Like, it was from when you had
pretty well, yeah.
It was, and I was like, holy shit! Like, okay, amazing. And so now, and I'm glad you're sharing this, because from my point of view, I was overseeing the training aspect. You were overseeing the management for all of Canada, and so from the outside, it looked like you had it all, type of thing. Like, wow, Kevin has hit this level in this company. He's this head manager for all of Canada. And that's when you moved to Toronto. I think you had to move to Toronto for that. And that's what I was reflecting back at, from that transition. You weren't necessarily happier.
No, no, I was lesser happy. I was working, and again, this is where my work ethic came in handy. It got me the job, but working really hard, but also it just made me work so much. I was up from like 8 a.m. Newfoundland time or Nova Scotia time, because we had
Yeah.
a branch in Halifax, to 9 p.m. Vancouver time. So in Toronto, I'm up from like working from 7 till midnight,
Oof.
essentially 7 days a week. And at the time, just the way the company was structured, I was getting paid maybe $400 or $500 a week, which was
That's
also leading to my unhappiness. I
incredible.
know. Yeah. Yeah. I was doing
Oh,
as much as I could to grow this thing, and at least what I thought I was doing, and not getting compensated what I thought was fair. So I stepped down out of management because I could make more just working
yeah.
shorter hours. I could focus on the things I want to do, like the acting, and maybe something there will take off. Who knows? At least I'll have a little more freedom, I
Was
thought.
it difficult for you to make that choice to step down? Was there any, did ego play into that
No,
from memory? Okay.
no, I think I'd had enough by then. I was complete.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did that, and then I just became a salesperson again and a trainer.
Yeah.
And then I was learning this one. I was doing this one product, and I was the only person in the company in Canada that could train on this product. And they said, "We're sending some people from Montreal to learn this product from you."
Yeah.
And there was a girl by the name of Melanie who I had met before previously when I was manager of Canada. And she and I didn't see eye to eye. We did not get along very well. And when
And
she showed up,
is there, now I know you know the answer now. Back then, why didn't you? From your
why didn't I
perspective.
like her?
Yeah, from your perspective. Because this is important
It
leading up
wasn't,
to those
she
watching.
was, okay, she was, in my eyes, as manager, when I was head of Canada, she was very demanding.
Okay.
And the problem was, even though I was the head of Canada, I still didn't call all the shots. There were two people above me in the company that basically called the shots, and my hands were tied in most areas, so I couldn't get her what she wanted, and she was very demanding in what she wanted, and I was like, I'm kind of caught in the middle
Right.
and getting blamed from both sides, and it didn't work, and I was it early mid 30s, somewhat arrogant, I know what I'm doing, everyone else is stupid kind of person. That's who I was. um, so they send her down to train, and I was like, okay, well, at least I'm going to get paid. I can handle this for a week or two, however long it's going to
Yeah.
be. I'll get paid. And she walked in the door with a big smile, said, "Hi, Kevin," and she gave me a hug. I was like, this is weird. Hi, Melanie. Like, super suspicious. Like,
Okay.
what's happening? Why are you being so kind to me when we've never really seen eye to eye on
Right.
anything? And so just our dynamic instantly changed. Her
Her
energy,
approach. Her approach.
yeah,
Yeah.
it softened me. I'm like, all right, well, this person's let me look at this person a little differently now, because
Right.
if she's going to be nice to me, I'm not going to be a jerk back just because we got to spend a couple weeks here together.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
one
Just
of
for
our
people
very early
watching, because you guys were
conversations,
staying in the company condo. So this was
yes,
a 5 bedroom condo or something. So you guys were both staying
yeah,
there. Just so people
I
know.
was the I was the troll living in the basement, and
Yeah.
she stayed up on one of the upper floors. And so we got talking because we were driving back and forth to work together. And she at one point said, well, I'm also a life coach. I don't know what a life coach is. I've heard of Tony Robbins before. I saw him in a movie once,
Yeah.
and I figure basically it's all woo woo, weirdo hippie stuff. That's like it's a bunch of garbage, is
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. I said. So I believe my exact words to her were, "All right, genius, fix me."
Which she responded with,
No, you don't want to be fixed. And that hit me to my core because I'd always prided myself on being someone that embraced change. I love change, but I don't love changing me.
mm,
I was like, whoa, wait a second. If this person who essentially just met me
yeah,
sees that in me, maybe the person that I'm being in public is not who I think I am.
right.
So I just started listening to her, and she became one of the most fascinating people on the planet. And I quickly fell in love. We quickly fell in love, and the rest is history.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Well, and we're going to elaborate on that history. But I think what's important is that because you were quite skeptical to this idea of personal growth,
Very.
personal development, um, and then through your relationship with her, it's how you fell in love with her essentially because you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this other world exists. And when I look back to knowing you back then, from my perspective, I didn't think, oh, Kevin must be unhappy with his life. Kevin must be he isn't content where he's at. But now that I look back, I go, okay, now I see it. Now I see,
Mm.
um, you know, because I remember, look, we can dive into this a little bit. Relationships that you were in, they didn't last very long, from my memory.
That's
So,
true.
and I want to share this because I think it's important for guys watching. Um, were you looking for happiness? Were you looking for love, or was it just to fill a void? Or
Well, we have to tell a different story there then. So the reason I originally moved to Vancouver is because I was
yeah,
engaged to be married to someone else. And
yeah,
she had moved to Vancouver and I
yeah,
moved out there. When I moved out, so she went to university out there. When I moved out there a year after she had gone, I found out that she had basically fallen in love with somebody else.
yeah.
We tried to make it work. It didn't work. I was crushed. And so, for a year or so, I was single. I just couldn't bring
Mm-hmm.
myself to date anybody. And then I opened myself up to dating more, and it was all very. I mean, it was pretty well superficial. Um, just again, trying to find my happiness, trying to find what's going to make me happy. Of course, I always wanted to get married. I didn't know if I wanted to have kids
Right.
after that. Um, we get this ideal in our head what our life is going to look like, and when it doesn't happen, we've got to try and find a new ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for that. I was searching for that, but also just being mildly content that I had a job. I had some companions periodically, and maybe that's the life that I'm going to lead. I had
Wow.
essentially, yeah, I had essentially accepted that, this is it. And someday something's,
And then at this point,
but
you're
I
in
didn't,
your early to mid 30s, like 30.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 30,
Jeez,
uh, 31 to 35 in those 4 years.
that is
I,
wild.
I was resigned to the fact that this was life. Yeah, of
And I appreciate you sharing that because I think that's a
course.
reality for a lot of people. That's just like, this is what it is. This is how my life will be, until something
Until
happens.
something changes. Exactly. Until some external thing happens. Someone comes and discovers me. Somebody offers me a job. Something else happens that's
Right.
outside of me. And one of the earliest and best lessons I got from listening to Melanie and getting on the self-development journey, I remember she says, Kevin, what do you want? And I was like, what do you mean? She said, it's not that difficult a question. She said, what do you want? I want a beer. And she said, no, take this seriously. I'm serious. I'd love to have a beer. And she's like, no, what do you want? I'm like, okay, fine. Oh yeah, she said, think bigger. I was okay, 2 beers. She's like, what do you want out of life? I literally couldn't understand the
Mm,
question of what do you want. I never thought about what I wanted. I thought about going to the next day, doing the job so that I could not work on a certain day, so that I could go buy beer and watch a hockey game.
but
That
was
was
that
my life.
your thought process 10 years before that when you were starting out in the workforce? When you were getting these
When I
many?
was first starting out, I was looking to build, well, again, growing up on the farm, I always thought I was going to get one job and stick to that for my whole
Okay.
life. When that ideal fell through very quickly after a year and a half, I was like, oh,
Okay.
oof. And then, another job and that fell through. And then on the farm, okay, I'm going to be a farmer, but I kind of don't really know if I want to be a farmer. I'm just going to, again, I was just letting life live me through the
Mm,
easiest path, and someday something's going to click.
okay.
Instead of going after something and saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I want to do, go figure it out. So that's what I learned in that moment when what she said to me is, okay, I have a scenario for you. You can either have, what did she say? Have beers in your hand and a 6-pack in your belly, or you could have a 6-pack of abs, a glass of wine in your hand, and the woman of your dreams sitting next to you on the beach. And I was like, what? That's possible for me? She's like, of course. How?
Yeah.
She's like, you just have to go do it, make it happen. Like, and then
But
overwhelm hits, and the whole body goes, I don't trust, I don't know, I don't trust, and then shortly thereafter, another phenomenal moment happened when you were getting married,
mhm.
and you invited me slash us to a destination wedding, and it was going to be $1,500. I'm like, I don't have
Yeah.
I would love to go, I can't go. And Melanie says, well, not with that attitude, you can't. What do you mean? I don't have the money. I can't go. I can't. And if I go, I can't afford the time off work because I'll be broke. How am I going to afford food when I get back? She says, look, decide you're going to go. Just decide. And the money's going to come.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh gosh. Boy, oh boy. You've got the woo woo.
Yeah.
You've got the woo woo. That is outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But I also didn't have anything to lose by thinking about it, by
Mhm.
doing it. So I remember the day I made the decision, I didn't tell you because
No.
if I was going to go, I wanted to be a surprise.
And it was
And I,
amazing.
yeah. And so I said to her, okay, I'm going to go. And I swear to you, I was just doing a sales job, the same sales job I'd always done. Something shifted in my energy when I made the commitment to myself. and people started buying the stuff a lot. And I literally paid it off in a week.
That's amazing. Amazing.
I was
From
like,
I don't have the money to,
oh,
oh, now we can go. Wow.
it blew me away. I did, and yet, and even then after that, it's still, and even still today, at the level that I'm at now, believing that is a struggle because the brain doesn't want to. It doesn't want to get outside that comfort zone. Our brain, our ego needs us to know exactly what's going to happen. Unless you know that that's going to happen, it doesn't.
Right. And that's something I love
It's
about
a
what you
very
teach.
difficult thing to wrap your brain around.
Well, because we grow up, somebody who follows the school system is you learn something, then you are knowledgeable, and then you apply that. And I think that's what scares a lot of people. When she presented that to you, you're like, how? How? I don't know how that's going to happen.
Yes.
And something that I love that you teach is not to worry about the how. If you just commit and you genuinely pursue something uh, out of love for it or without sacrificing family, it works. It just
Yeah.
does. And that's something that I can attest to 1000%. So,
And I think the key to it is it can't be about the money. It's got to be about people.
yeah.
Like this was not a decision I made about money. Yes, it required money to go, but this was a decision I made so that I could be there for and with my friends
Mm-hmm.
on an incredibly important day in their lives.
Yeah.
And so I could go with my new girlfriend.
Absolutely. So that you could experience that as well, as
Which was
opposed to,
yeah.
oh, how was your trip? Oh, that's great. You're looking at pictures and still believing like, well, I'm not capable of doing that. And that's overcoming that fear, because there's a
Mm-hmm.
discomfort or fear of, I'm going to commit to this. It might not work, but like you said, what else do I have to lose? And then it works, and you're like, wait a minute, my body is not used to this.
Yes,
It's your brain,
and
it's
it
your
goes,
whole
ooh, can I
body.
repeat this? Can I
Yeah,
do this again? And then we try and do it again, and we're like, well, it was easy last time. It just worked, so I'll do it again. But it never works exactly the same way if we're doing it again for that reason.
exactly.
It has to be like it's a brand new reason. There's got to be a new why.
Yeah,
I mean, it can still be the same people, it can still be for the same people. But if you try to repeat the thing that happened in the past, it's just not going to work. You don't have the same energy. It's
right.
not the same person that's showing up. And we talk about energy. It's, again, that might be a sort of a woo-woo word, but it's just about who are you being in every moment in your conversations. In those moments when I'd made that commitment, I was being someone who, like a very strong masculine energy. I made a commitment. I'm going to keep my word. I'm going to do the things that is required. Even now, as I'm speaking about it, I feel different inside.
Mm-hmm.
And other people feel that difference, and it makes a difference. If I try and repeat that, okay, I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. Okay, go. Do me like I was
Yeah,
yesterday. There's
yeah,
totally different energy, completely different me speaking, and other people feel that.
yeah.
And if we're talking about money, relationships are how we make money. Someone buys something from you, you buy something from someone else. There's always someone else behind it. Even if you're shopping online, there's someone else that puts it on a UPS truck, and there's a UPS driver,
Yeah.
and there's a whole bunch of other people that created the programs. Like everything is connected to humans,
And
so it's
also,
all about relationships.
you you don't buy from somebody or something because of that. No matter how good the deal
100%.
is, whatever, you're like, I'd rather pay more and encourage this person or this entity or organization because they're offering this, that, and this. So I think that's
Yeah, I
great.
really like your product, but something feels off about you.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to use this as an example because I don't like to use people as an example, but as an example, used car dealerships, let's say,
Hmm.
the stereotypical, people you see on television,
Yeah.
all in your face. Use this model is going to be great. This car is like, I like this car. I came in to buy a car just like this, but because of you,
Yeah.
I'm having second thoughts.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that example up because my father-in-law, he used to sell, he was a car salesman, that was his career. And I think he did used as well. And he was very successful in it. And one thing I remember asking, like, you know, what worked for you? He said, people trusting me. It wasn't that he had the best lines, he knew everything about the cars. Yes, he was knowledgeable and he could, but it was they trusted him. And people most often will buy from people that they trust. So no, I'm glad
100%.
you bring that up. So now you're starting at this point, your eyes are open, your heart is open, your mind is open to a new world of personal development. There's still a learning curve, not just to personal development, but being with somebody who is so into it and who trusts it so much. But you trust her, and your relationship explodes, it blossoms. Your relationship becomes so strong because you trusted each other, because she had to trust you to support her
Mm-hmm.
through all this as well. At what point did you
Yeah.
go, okay, I'm all in with it? Not the relationship, but when it came to personal
In
growth.
self-development.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took me at least a year before I actually did any actual self-development programs or anything like
Yeah.
that. Because at first I was still skeptical. She was
Mm-hmm.
extremely interesting. The things that she said started to make a lot of sense. And I would just listen, and we would just talk. I'm like, oh gosh, that's so, oh wow, I never thought about that. Whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, okay, I'm going to this event. Do you want to come? Nope. Still skeptical. Nope,
That's
don't
going to
want to
cost
go. And
money.
then
Yeah.
a year or so, yeah, right. That's exactly it. A year or so later, she says, okay, there's this one summit. Friends of ours are going. Do you want to go? I'm like, okay. Okay, so it's a Millionaire Mind seminar
Mm-hmm.
by T. Harv Eker.
Yeah.
No, not T. Harv Eker. T. Harv Eker? Yeah, T. Harv Eker.
Perfect.
Millionaire
Yeah.
Mind seminar. Yep. And so I'm in the group there, and I'm shouting at people, "You have a millionaire mind, and you have a millionaire mind," and feeling awkward. And I remember one instance. It was very interesting. The guy up at the front says, "I'm going to give away this book to one person. One person's going to get this book here." And he starts talking about it. And my first instinct was, go get it. Go up and take the book. But I didn't. I sat and I did. And very clear, like, just waiting on someone to come take this book. And even then, even after saying that, not, everybody sat. Nobody actually jumped up for another, few sentences. And finally, somebody went up after he laid it on a silver platter. But I was
Yeah.
like, that's so weird. I had this instinct to go do that, and I'd never really trusted instinct before. I'd never really, I assumed instinct was just for making sure I didn't get eaten by a bear,
Right.
out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
This is my instinct. I can
Yeah. Fight
forage
or
for food
flight.
if I
Yeah.
need to. Yeah, I didn't realize that this was something internal in all of us, that there's this little guidance system that says, go ahead, do that. And there's a guidance system that says, don't do
Yeah.
that. So that was a very cool moment. And then I love this thing, and there's an exercise at the end of these summits. There's seminars after your 3 days or whatever. It's extraordinarily powerful. Anybody that's done it knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then I was hooked. I was like, let's do more. So we bought the big bundle and we went to all these camps, and we went all over North America to these summits and leadership camp and wizard camp and all these cool things, like these 5-day camps. Amazing. And halfway through this, I'm a few years into it, so I'm still less than 40, but I'm in my late 30s.
Yeah.
I'm spending all this money. We just finished Melanie had just finished a Tony Robbins event, which we've been paying for on credit cards and whatnot. And we're paying for these other camps on credit cards, and we're just, making enough money to pay off the credit card, enough money to pay off the credit card, enough money to pay off the credit card. And not even fully, just to make minimum payments and get enough room, like a couple $1,000 just to put on the next payment towards the next retreat. And they said, well, we'd like to invite you to London, England for the next Tony Robbins event, the follow-up to the event that Melanie went, and you can both come. And Melanie's very excited about this. I'm like, I mean, it worked once. I trust you. Let's do it. It's in a year. We'll figure out how to get to London later. Let's pay this off and we'll see what happens. So again, things started working out because we made that commitment. The job that I was with, a training opportunity came up in London. So we got flown out there for free. And I got to make money while I was there because I was training people on the product that I knew in the company I was working for.
Amazing.
Blew my mind. And the crazy thing is, so I'm still working for someone else. Melanie is got her own business. Mm-hmm. And it's Business Mastery is the name of the program. And this one in particular was Business Mastery 2, because the first one she went to was Business Mastery 1. Yeah. I didn't learn a damn thing that was helpful to me then because I didn't have a business. What I did learn, though, is the energy. Again, it comes back to energy. Who am I being? And we sat at, fairly well at the back most times. There's, probably 1,000 people in the room.
Right.
And we're sitting at the back. And I'm seeing all these people up at the front. They're cheering and jumping. And I'm, trying to get into it. Don't want to look like an idiot. But, everybody else is doing it. So fine. What I realized is the people at the front were all the wealthy people. People at the back were all the people struggling to buy it. Like, wait a second. Next event, I'm going to be sitting at the front. Not because I'll be wealthy, but because I want to be in people's energy that are. Mm-hmm. If I want to get there, I have to learn. If everything is about relationships and everything is about how I feel and about how I communicate, why not be in the place where the people that have what I want are communicating like that and being the people that they are?
Right.
And that, again,
I think it's an important point, because I think when people think of personal development and personal growth, it's not, I think the feeling is, well, they've already made it, so they don't need it anymore. It's like, no, that's why the highest elite athletes have a coach. The mm-hmm. highest elite musicians or whatever, they have coaches to coach them, even that they got there because of the coaching, but they stay there and grow because of that coaching and that environment, that energy, like you said.
There's no end game to this.
Yeah.
There's no finish line to self-development.
Yeah.
The self-development rabbit hole is an abyss. It is a black hole of wonderment and awe. Yeah. Yeah. It just never ends. The more you learn about it, the more you learn about yourself. It's like, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah. But the reason I tell that story is because we'd spent all this money. We're into self-development now to the, multiple 5 figures pushing 6 figures self-development at this time,
Right.
and not much has changed. And I came to the realization that self-development, there's a self-development trap, which is, it feels really cool to go to these events. It feels really cool to listen to podcasts. It feels really cool to hear these things about people that are inspiring. And my mind gets blown and I get all excited and energy. But when I leave, I have to go back to my normal life. And nothing changes unless I actually implement the things that I learn. And I have to be courageous to implement those things. I can't wait for something external to happen.
Yeah.
Just because I know all this stuff now doesn't mean anything's going to change unless I do something about it. And it was then that things started to take off.
I think that's and maybe this is not the case for you, but when it comes to skepticism with personal growth and personal development, I think that's where it lies. Where if it's so easy to think and grow rich, then why aren't I rich? If it's so easy to just meditate on something and this will happen, this will develop, why is it? And because people don't, like you said, begin that trap of, I've read so many books and I've watched so many videos or I've been to so many events and nothing is changing. You have to take action. And then that was a big thing for me being in TWOM. That was the first personal development commitment I had made where I was with a higher investment. It wasn't just buying a $20 book and going through the book and going, okay, that chapter was okay, or that. It was like, no, I'm committing to this, and that's when things started happening a lot quicker. And that's one of the reasons why I developed the IAFM League the way it's developed. It's designed to take action because knowledge is fantastic, but like you said, unless you implement what you've learned, and when it comes to school, we're taught, well, you've graduated, you have your degree or your diploma, you know everything you need to know at this point. You don't need to keep learning. But
that's how we're taught, or at least that's how I thought anyway.
Yeah.
I think most people do. I don't have to learn anything now. I'm done. Yay! Oops.
Right.
That is a recipe for blasé life.
Yeah.
There's so much in the world to learn.
Yeah.
There's so much internal to learn, and nothing external is ever going to change us. It all comes from within first.
Right. So you were saying that you had invested so much money over so many years, nothing is changing. You come to the realization, oh shit, I have to do the work. I have to start. I have to, if I want things to change, I have to initiate this. Can you give an example of when that started to evolve or grow or develop for you? Because you were seeing it with Melanie.
Yeah, well, we went to what was called the relationship retreat, so another camp we were going to. Mm-hmm. And one of the events there, all the men were separated from all the women. And I was they split the men up into groups of 3. And they said, okay, you're going to share with these men your deepest fear.
Mm.
So I'm looking at this businessman beside me, wearing a suit, and this jock beside me on the other side. Young guy, looks a bit arrogant. I'm like, these guys aren't going to share anything. They're not going to tell me the truth. They're going to come up with something, but I'm going to play all out because that's what I'm here to do. Mm-hmm. So I went first and I shared all out, and then they both did as well. And I was like, whoa, I have made some judgments here that do not suit me or other people.
Well, maybe they were initially, but then when they saw your vulnerability, they thought, okay, I feel safe with him at least, which I think is rare, especially when it comes to men, to actually be vulnerable and share how they feel. So this happens. You all share your fears.
And at the end of that particular exercise, the leader says, if you don't have a community of men in your area, make one.
Mm.
And at this time, Melanie and I are basically digital nomads. We have no fixed address. We're just on the road 100% of the time. We were that for almost eight years, 7 years. And I was like, well, if I don't have a fixed address, I can do it online. And I said, okay, let's make it happen. Like, let's go. Let's do it. Keep moving. Keep taking action. When somebody says do it, do it. When the intuition says do it, do it quickly before you talk yourself out of it.
Right.
And those two guys were the first people in my group.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Along with a couple of other friends.
Which is the Effortless Alpha.
Effortless Alphas. It was the very first Effortless Alphas group. It started off with 6 people, and then I opened it up to the world, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And
how did that feel for you when you opened it up? Was there fear there? Was there?
There's been fear every step of the way.
Yeah.
For people that are waiting to get over the fear, you'll be waiting a long time. It doesn't matter what level you get to, there's always fear.
Yeah.
There just comes a time when you realize that the courage to jump into the fear gets you what you want, or at least helps you figure out the path anyway. We can't, there is no such thing as fearless.
Right.
I firmly believe there is no fearless. If you're fearless, you're not doing anything out of the ordinary. You're not doing anything to further yourself. Mm-hmm. It may not be I'm scared of dying,
right?
But there's fear of looking stupid. There's fear of failure. There's fear of just not making any money. Mm-hmm. One of my biggest fears when I first said to the world I'm a coach, I said it online, was what are the people that already know me, that have seen me do all these other jobs, going to think? When I thought about it, when I thought about it, there was a couple people that came to mind.
Yeah.
Particular. And I was like, oh, this is going to suck. So I closed my eyes. I pressed post on Facebook and jumped into the fear. And guess what? Nothing bad happened. Mm-hmm. They actually congratulated me on my choice. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Most of the fears that we experience on a daily basis have no basis in reality.
Exactly. We create them. Yeah.
Yeah. We're afraid of feeling something. We're not afraid of the actual outcome. We're afraid of our feelings. We're afraid of the guilt or the shame that's going to come with if it doesn't work. Yeah. So that's a lot of the work that I do now is with men and guilt and shame, and being able to deal with that, being able to feel it and realize it ain't going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's just something that's happening in your body.
And I remember at a certain point when it might have been on a Facebook Live, or I remember you expressing not necessarily, you had already been in a coaching, but you expressed, I'm focusing on relationship coaching. So what led to that? Because I think it's super important and there's not enough of it happening out in the world.
I realized through this entire journey of my own self-development that the thing that I was best at is my relationship with Melanie. Working on myself so that I can have an incredible relationship, because she's the most amazing human. To me, she's the most amazing human on the planet. I would hope that to any man listening to this, your partner is the most amazing human on the planet. You're wrong. Mine is. But I just like this kind of stuff just lit me up. Working with guys and having them just be themselves in front of me, where they don't need to posture like, you don't need to be anybody for me.
Yeah.
Tell me the truth. Tell me the fear that's going on. Why do you react the way that you do to your partner when she says this? Not the thing that you think I want to hear. What's behind that?
Yeah.
And what's behind that? And what's behind that? Let's go deeper. Let's find out what's at the root of this. Realize that it's, again, just a bunch of irrational fear, and change the way that you show up in your relationship. Because what inevitably happens if we don't do this work is we get into relationships and we feel awkward. We feel shame and guilt. We feel fear. We go to work and we're constantly thinking about what's going to happen when I get home, or I should have said this, or I just had an argument. I'm not feeling myself. And how are we showing up at work when that's happening?
Right.
Impossible to be your best self at work when your home life is garbage.
Mm-hmm.
So figure out the home life, and work will be exponentially better. And the more I worked on me, the more our financial lives got better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen it time and time and time and time again. The more men work on themselves in relationships, the better their finances get. Yeah. It's a byproduct of the men we become in our relationships. And that just fires me up.
It's, I've lived that personal experience as well. And I think it's hard for a lot of men, especially who've never been open to it, to accept that, because that's not what we've been taught. Generationally, we've been taught, like you said, you got to work hard to earn your money. Mm-hmm. And so but what does that mean? Work hard at our job or in our career. If we work hard in our relationships, like you mentioned, your energy shifts. You show up, like you mentioned, as a different person. When you show up differently at home, you show up differently at work. All of a sudden, things are going to click. I was talking to a client of mine yesterday who was expressing that one of his best friends, in front of it, all the friends, their family was like the ideal family. Watch out. Everybody thought they were a happy family.
Right.
And the wife had to talk to their friends and say, you need to talk to him because I'm about to leave him. I'm going to take the kids and leave. And so they did, and they approached him in a way so that he felt safe, but they're like, things aren't going well, eh? And this guy he was not well. And he bawled in front of them, and I said to him, I'm like, this unfortunately happens so much that because we're taught as men, hold it down. I'm a man, I can get through this. I got to be tough. And this is why your work is so important. And I'm glad you're sharing.
There's millions, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, millions of men.
Yeah.
Just in North America alone, that are completely trapped within themselves because of the stigma that men are not supposed to be emotional. You're supposed to figure your stuff out, put on a good face, because if you don't, you'll look weak. Well, I can tell you that if that guy bawled in front of his friends, he didn't look weak in that moment.
It's probably the most courageous thing he's done in years.
Damn right.
Yeah.
It's vulnerable, sure, but and to be able to do it in front of other men, that's why I created TWOM. That's why I created Effortless Alphas. Like, I wanted to have a place for men to just be okay, letting it out, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Because as long as it's stuck inside and you're not sharing it with anybody, nothing's gonna change.
Yeah.
It's going to stay there. There's a very high chance you'll lose your relationship. You might lose your kids. When I talk to men, to a man, there has never been anybody that said, you know what? I don't want to spend any more time with my children. I don't have kids, but it's like, that's a vulnerable thing to say. Mm. Why wouldn't you want to say that? I want to spend more time with my wife. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better partner. I want to show my kids love. I want to tell my kids I love them. It's okay to do that. In fact, it's encouraged to do that. Just because your dad didn't and his dad didn't to him doesn't mean, one of the things that I see, not so much anymore, but used to see a lot is, we've got to teach the new generations this new way. We got to teach the kids how to, be open and vulnerable and stuff. I'm like, the kids aren't going to do what you tell them to. The kids will do what you do.
Yeah.
The only way ever to make a change is for you to go first. Show them how it's done. Then they'll have guidance. They'll have a way to do it. The best boss is the one that knows how to do all the jobs.
Yeah.
The best father is the one that knows how to do all the things that he wants his son to do.
Yeah, it's and I appreciate what you do, and because it's you had to overcome a fear of what are people going to think about me, about this, like you expressed, and then especially bringing in men that you don't know, and they don't know you. They find your group or they're referred, and I can speak from experience, and we can talk a little bit about the difference between the two containers. But with the Effortless Alpha, these men come into this group and they'll share their story with complete strangers, and then get support from complete strangers, and they express things that they would probably have never shared with their partner, with their best friends, with their siblings, or even parents. And I think that is so powerful because they probably feel there's no judgment here. And I think that's why it's so important. It's like these people, all these men are in this group for different reasons, but in a way for the same reason.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see that system working. And then guys telling, hey, 6 months, it's been 6 months since I've implemented this, and this is how this has changed.
Yes.
And one thing I've learned from my personal experience, being especially in the Word of Man, is how profound change can happen in a very short period of time. Yes, we continually grow and evolve, but when you focus on something and you commit to it, it's, like the example you gave of earning money for the wedding. It's like, hey, this is, and it's like, oh, geez, that worked. And for some, was that a fluke? I don't know.
I think for most, not some. The first time, it's natural to say, is that a fluke? No, it couldn't be. You're going to rationalize that so that I don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll hope that it works.
Which is,
but again,
which is so, and I'm glad you bring that up because it's so funny, because it is what people want. They want it to happen again, but we block ourselves. We go, can't be true, because then we feel stupid that we didn't do this 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's like, it's okay. We weren't introduced to that 5, 15, 10, 20 years ago.
What I like to say is, be the man who would like to live the rest of his life over again.
Yeah.
I don't care what you've done in the past. I don't care who you've been in the past. Show me who you are and who you want to be, and let's go be that.
Yeah.
And I'll be right there with you, celebrating you along the way, every win.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Because there's so few places for men to get celebrated.
Because we have to show emotion when we celebrate, and we're not used to it. We celebrate when our sports team wins.
Exactly. We have to learn to accept, like when our sports team wins, it's not us.
Yeah.
We're cheering for them. It's easier. But when it's us, we have to learn to receive the praise. Oddly enough, receiving is a feminine energy.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we're effeminate.
Yeah.
It just means it's a receiving energy. Masculine is a giving energy.
Yeah.
That's it. But there's so many things that we learn in high school and through public school about what men are supposed to be.
Right.
And we live into this box that prevents us from being everything that we can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, no. So you create Effortless Alpha, and
Mhm.
then you create the Word of Man. Wow.
Mm.
How did that evolve? Because that was a an instinct thing too, wasn't it?
An instinct thing? Yeah. I mean, I was doing effortless alphas, but there wasn't a lot of the guys were doing sort of the challenges that we were running in the program. We did uh, walks for cure cancer October a few years back, and just monthly challenges, little workout challenges and things like that. But I didn't see it really making a difference in people's lives. And I said, what's the missing piece? Well, the
Right.
missing piece is that commitment. Like, I'm going to put some, because I put a lot of money on the line to learn the self development that I learned. If it was all free, I wouldn't have learned what I learned
Yeah.
because it's got no meaning. So, all right, put some skin in the game,
Yeah.
and let's get some results out of this. And because they were putting skin in the game, I was fired up about it, and I created a program that really went deep on the things that I had learned in my journey over the last 5 years in self development, or however long it was, 4 years.
Yeah.
And and TWOM was born about keeping our word to ourselves. The word of man is more, it's not about keeping your word to other people. That's part of it, but it's easier to keep your word to other people because other people can get disappointed in us. We don't want that because that comes with guilt and shame, and we avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
With ourselves, we can rationalize it. I didn't keep my word to myself. I'll do it tomorrow. Well, guess what? Doing it tomorrow is going to last forever.
Yeah.
So, what?
Yeah.
What's the next step? Make it go. And there's accountability there, and there's conversation in there that we didn't really have in the effortless alphas. So it's very personal. We meet on Zoom and we talk, and it's right there. It's very visceral.
Yeah. That's what I love about it is that yes, you're leading the conversation, you're leading the training, the coaching, and the guys will feel comfortable enough to share what's going on with them in their lives or their experiences and or their feedback, and it everybody's learning, yes, from you, but also from other people, which is so powerful.
Yeah.
They go, oh, I can relate to that, or I can relate to that point or that experience, and we hear that on every call.
Have a go. Have a go.
Every single call, there's at least one guy that goes, oh yeah, I can relate to that. And it's guys from different backgrounds or different parts of North America or the
Different
world.
ages.
Yeah, different
We
ages,
got guys from
demographics.
late 20s to mid 60s,
Yeah, that's, that's
and
what.
they're all there for themselves. And this is the biggest, one of the bigger stipulations I would make in any self development. If you're doing it for someone else, nothing's going to change. You got to do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people around you will be affected by you for sure. The way that you communicate will change the communication patterns of other people, 100%.
Yeah.
But if you do it for someone else, like if your partner's been trying to get you into self development and you find nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
That was why it needed to have some skin in the game. I'm putting my own money on the line because I've honestly had men have their partners pay for them to be in TWOM,
Yeah.
and they last a few calls and leave, and their
Yeah.
partners are left paying a bill. And I'm like,
And then they tell their partner, well, it wasn't what I thought it would be, or, yeah, because
because the only
they,
reason they went there was for the partner.
yeah.
When you go for yourself, that's when things change
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for the better.
Absolutely.
And it might be messy. In fact, it's probably going to be messy. There's going to be miscommunications. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be fights. If that's what your norm has been,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to change overnight like that. Like, the overnight success takes 10 years.
Yeah.
This doesn't necessarily take 10 years, but some things that I've had to learn from within myself have taken many years of
Yeah.
practice. like getting over the need to be right. And that one took years, years. And just when I thought I had it, something else would pop up. And I'm like, oh no, why did I
But I think
respond that way? Why did I react that way?
I think that's a male ego thing,
Of course.
right? It's just, well, no, this is logical. And especially with women, it's often emotional. And so for men, it doesn't make, I think that's the thing that, and what I love about you, what you teach is that exact point where it's not the words that are necessarily being spoken, it's the feelings. And we have been programmed and trained, unfortunately, as young men evolving into men, to not understand that language that women speak so well amongst each other. And then when it's communicated to us, we just don't get it. And they're like, why don't you understand me? I don't.
I think some women will even say, I don't even understand me sometimes. But
Yeah.
men, the same thing. When we get out of our head and into our emotions, where it's all messy, the things that come out of our mouth, we often regret.
Yeah.
And it's vice versa for ladies. When they're in their emotions, when they're in their heart, things are fantastic. When they get up into their head, that's when things get messy.
Yeah.
So this is the masculine feminine balance. It's a beautiful thing. And if you can learn to speak the other person's language, so if women can learn to speak the men's language and men can learn to speak the women's language, communication is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Does it mean there will never ever be another fight? Does it mean there will never be a miscommunication ever? Of course not. You're humans.
Yeah.
It happens. We get emotional. We get in our heads. But if we can do our best to communicate in each other's language, then we can have an understanding. That's why I say listen for the emotion, not for the words.
Yeah.
And again, even in men, listen for the emotion. I'm constantly listening for the emotion. When I'm working with men, I'm always listening for the emotion. I can pick out little things like the thing that you said right there, that particular word, that had a hint of resentment to it. Let's talk about that word. And then
you call guys out on the call right in front of everybody. You're like, wait, hold on. Let's go back to, and then they're like, but it's amazing because then they reveal what that is, and then they learn something about themselves and go, okay, what I think something that you teach, it's so important. Yes, it's about taking action in it, but it's an awareness of like, okay, why am I triggered by this in this moment? Or why do I react this way in this moment? And just even having that awareness will help the communication, the conversation, the emotion. And as a result, how are you going to communicate that? So I think that's where we think like, the conversation didn't go exactly the way I wanted to. That's okay. What did you take away from that? And that's something that I will do with Emmanuel of like, this is how I feel. I'm going to express it the best I can right now. It might not come out the way I'd want it to, so at least she's bracing herself almost and like, okay. And then we can talk about it. And it's like, oh God, that was way better than I thought. Because I think we also do that as well a lot, is we create stories of, well, and then that creates the fear of if I say this, she'll react this way because that's how she reacted the last time. And then I'll have to defend myself, and then she'll be pissed off about this. And then it doesn't go that way at all.
I can't tell you how many hours in my previous life as me I spent going through conversations in my head that I'm going to have. Okay, if I say this, she's going to say that. And then I'm going to say this, and she's going to say that. Okay. Then if I say that, then she'll say that. I'll say this, she'll say that. So I go for hours. And this is what I was talking about. When we're in our heads at work, thinking about a conversation that we're going to have. And when it comes down to it, I've never nailed it. Never once. It never happened the way I thought. Not a single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of emotions.
Yeah.
Because they affect the way that we speak.
Well, and how we receive the information as well. You know, an argument you might have had with your partner at a previous moment, she was feeling something and she might have felt your energy. You talk about this, and I love it. She feels your energy when you're coming into the conversation. So she
Uh-huh.
is bracing herself without, you know, and she's like, oh, what's going on here? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're awkward because you don't know how to communicate the feeling or the fear or whatever. And then it's like, oh, geez. So then often men will use that previous experience for something that hasn't even happened yet.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I
Yeah.
love
It's like
about
you
you.
you change the dynamic of the conversation just by the way that you feel when you walk in the room.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah.
But your partner isn't using logic in that moment. She feels you. You can't hide how you feel from your partner. She feels something's off. I mean, guys, you know this is true because when she says, I'm fine, you know she's not fine. Simple as that. But
Yeah.
there are, and she doesn't even need to use words. You understand. The same thing goes in the other direction. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get to hide how you're feeling. She already knows it. She may not know why.
Yeah.
May not know the exact feeling, but she feels your feeling.
Right.
Something's wrong. And if you come into the conversation, you walk into the room with something's wrong, and she feels that, you've already decided how the outcome of this conversation is going to go.
Yeah. No, it's so powerful, and it's so, and this is why I wanted you to talk about this, because it's, as men, we are not exposed to this. So we need more people like you, more groups like the Word of Man, the Effortless Alpha, to create that comfort for people to, like you said, mess up.
Mm.
And again, the greatest athletes, the greatest musicians, the greatest doctors, the greatest whatever, they all messed up to get to the point that they're at now. We just see them as the superstar. We don't see them screwing up at the beginning. So,
But
uh,
also, look at all the practice they put in. Like to get to be the best golfer in the world, to get to be the best hockey player in the world, you have a lot of practice. How much effort up to this point, listening to this podcast, have you put in to being the best communicator you can be for your partner? Couple minutes?
yeah.
How do you expect to get better when you've only put in a couple minutes or just thought about it a bunch?
Or you read one book and you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's um, it's so true because we're not, again, taught to focus on that. We're not,
No.
because it's like, well, that's not what's important. Is I got to go out and make some money. I got to provide for
Mm-hmm.
my family. That's what I do as a man. And sure, that is important. But as you expressed before, when you develop and strengthen your relationship, everything else will take care of itself far greater than you ever, because the stresses go away. If you're stressed at home,
Right.
you're stressed at work, and then you bring that stress home and it just goes back and forth. And like you said, doesn't mean it will go away, but it just, you learn how to live with it and grow
Mm-hmm.
and evolve from it and go, okay, there's still elements of me, that past version of me, but I have learned way better now how to deal with these circumstances, because something that might have taken you an hour to process now can get done in
Yes.
seconds or minutes, especially with emotions. So and one thing that I love about the Word of Man is that you are always bringing in new things. The foundation is often, okay, we've talked about, you mentioned shame and guilt, for example, or one of the things that I've taken away the most from TWOM is forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Living, like you mentioned, who you are in those moments, and who do you want to be. Uh, can you share, because the group keeps evolving, your teaching keeps evolving, and does a lot of it have to do with your personal experience, or is it from the experiences of teaching these other men and what they bring to the group and to you as well?
Yes.
Excellent. But
Just
I think that's
yes. Yeah. I
important
mean,
for guys to know that sometimes when we read a book or we listen to a video or a podcast or something, there's certain things that we don't pick up right then and there. And so to go back, and that's what I love about the group as well, is there's always something new. It's always.
It has no longer shocked me how many guys go, it's crazy. I was just going through this when I come up with a topic to
Yeah.
speak about. Because I always have something in the back of my head I want to talk about. Oftentimes, like last night's call, we talked an hour on something someone just happened to mention right off the hop of the call. And that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really helps because someone's going through it right now, and we find out somebody else is going through it, very similar things. But yeah, the teachings are growing, and they're ever evolving because I'm growing and ever evolving. If I stop growing, the teachings would stop growing. I see people post online. I see guys in the group post online, and I'll take a lesson from that and I'll bring that to the group, or someone else on a different group that we're not a part of, or just someone online or someone in the news does something. I'll take that and make it a teaching lesson. It's like I said, self-development is a never-ending process. If we stop, I think we just start to stagnate.
So, what would you say to somebody who has never, the Kevin of 15 years ago, watching this now, who has never been introduced to it or was skeptical, and now after watching or listening to this, they might go, that's interesting. What would you propose for them how to get started when it comes to?
Just keep listening. Just keep listening. Get your hands on, listen to more of this podcast. Find the Effortless Alphas. Get in there. Just keep listening. It's gonna crack eventually something inside you that makes you want more. And on that day, it's going to be beautiful. Your life is going to change forever for the positive. But just stay open-minded that there might be a different way. Mm-hmm. And the way that I do things, the teachings that I give may not completely resonate with everybody. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. But be open to finding someone that does resonate with you, the things that they say, to open your mind to this, because it's a lifetime journey. Right. And we only have one life, just one. Yeah. And that's fascinating. It's scary. It's empowering. It's all the things. And it's going to be different. It's going to feel different things on different days. Yes. That's key. Yeah. And all of it's okay. Yeah. Just like I said, it's really cool to want to be the guy that would want to live the rest of his life over again. Whatever you've done in the past, you can get forgiven for it if it's bad. Just don't give up. Yeah. I think that's super important, because I think a lot of people, based on their past experiences, it could be even just one experience, one thing that happened or one thing that was said, that they feel, okay, this is my identity now. Subconsciously even, and then that's who they become. Like you said earlier, well, this is just the life I'm going to have. Yeah. And now to fast forward all those years, and if you would have shown that Kevin 15 years ago, this is what your life will be in 15 years. No way. Well, my first question would be, great, how? Yeah. Yeah. And my answer to be, don't worry about the how. Yeah. And then 15 years ago, Kevin would be like, you're an idiot. Tell me how. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not an idiot. You're going to figure out who the idiot was. And even if you did tell him, He
He
wouldn't believe.
either A, wouldn't have believed you, B, would have been scared, probably.
Mhm.
Because what's important, what you're sharing, is this was all incremental. Yes, some things happen a lot faster than other things, but I think that's what's so important about personal growth and development is that it is step by step, and you go along this journey. If you would have said, "Well, you're going to be living off these credit cards, and you're going to have trouble paying them, and you'll be so enamored with this woman," and you go, "What? Like how? No, I don't."
I don't. I want to be. I'm already stressed with money. I don't want to be more stressed with money. Don't give me
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. And so I think that's so what I love about your story, your journey is that, and it keeps to me, I'm like, and you've shared this as well, but I'm like, this is just the beginning. That's what's awesome. And that's something that I feel with my life uh, as I keep learning and implementing things, I'm like, holy shit, this is just going to keep getting better. And that's what's fun. And then that's when you trust it more, you believe it more, and you implement it a lot more. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to trust this because it's been working, uh, and it puts you in a mindset of positivity. And you're like, why wouldn't I want to?
Yeah.
So that's another thing I think men don't focus on is happiness. We believe that happiness is through other sources. If my wife or my partner's happy, then I'm happy. That's all I want. I want them to be happy. If I have this, if I'm earning this much money, if I have this position at work, or I have my kids are happy with me, then I'm happy because that's what we learned generationally.
Yeah. But we're
Where,
allowed to be happy first,
yeah, yes,
and our the people in our family, the people in our communities, want us to be happy first.
mm-hmm.
We're allowed. It's okay. It's okay to find your own happiness and share that instead of
Yeah,
doing things. Your value, your worth to your family is not just in the things that you do.
right.
It's in who you are with them on a daily basis.
And that's one of the things I love about, for example, in the Effortless Alpha groups, the guys will post there, and you've set up challenges, and guys have just continued doing this. Their gratitudes, because I think that's one
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest, the easiest, most underrated actions that one can do to change your happiness level. Because when you're in a state of gratitude, you're not. It's hard. You can't be living these two different emotions. So that's something that, and it's great to see these guys still posting that and sharing it. And you
Yeah, I love
see
that.
also their evolution as a result of just sharing gratitudes. Yes, it goes outside of the group, what they're
Yep.
doing, but it also encourages them, well, this is working. Again, what we talked about, this works. So I'm going to keep doing it. Why wouldn't I? So,
That gratitude challenge, I started that. The first one I did was November 2020, I think, maybe 2019.
yeah.
I think it was probably older than that. Yeah, 2019, maybe in 2018. But we did a month long gratitude challenge where you just post 5 different gratitudes a day. You can never repeat the same one.
Mm-hmm.
That still to this day, people talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one that changed people's lives the most.
Yeah.
Just posting daily
Yeah.
gratitudes.
It's wild because I think in the world of men's personal development, from what I see, maybe your experience is different. We see how to get ripped, great shape, how to get, have more sex, how to earn more money. When it comes to personal development, which the guy goes, oh, well, I want those things because if I have those things, then I will be happy. There's no focus on how to become happier because that is not masculine.
It's
It's
intangible.
yeah,
It's harder to understand.
yeah,
How can I be happy if I don't have those things?
yeah,
Ooh, why not try?
yeah.
Because if you're happy now, you've got a much better chance of getting those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. which is exactly what's happened to you. And I'm so grateful for this call, my friend.
Me
Uh,
too.
Thank you for this chat. So where can people find you? I'm going to put this in the comment section as well on the page there, but where can people find you and follow you, and if they want to be
Anywhere you
involved?
search Effortless Alpha, you will find me. I sound like the three amigos there. Search Effortless Alpha, you will find us.
So let us know on social media, Facebook, Instagram.
Trademarked, it's me. That's it. Effortlessalpha.com, on Instagram, Effortless Alpha, Facebook, Effortless Alpha. I think I even have a LinkedIn account. I never go on it, so don't message me there.
Yeah. And so if somebody is looking to get involved or into the Effortless Alpha group, they can look it up and then they send a request to join, right?
Yep, request to join. It is men only. I have had a lot of women try to join, but I want to make sure, because there are a lot of spaces for women only groups in the world. There are so few places for men only groups. And it's not because we don't love you, ladies, but men need to have a space that's specifically for men where they feel safe just being themselves.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'll put that all into the comments.
Thank you.
I love you, buddy. I appreciate you
Love
so
you too.
much. I hope that we can do more of these in the future at some point.
Absolutely.
Well, there you have it. What an amazing conversation with Kevin. There's so much value in this talk, and I'm so excited that you get to hear, listen, and absorb. There was so much there talking about his beginning, the older version of him, being introduced to personal growth, his skepticism, his doubts, and then just it changing his life in such a positive way. I love how he talks about how it didn't happen instantaneously, and that he shared his vulnerability and his fears as well going through it all, and how now he's having such a profound impact on so many men. It's so awesome. And so if you want to learn more about Kevin, I'm going to put that in the comments about where to join Effortless Alpha or join the Word of Man or learn more about it. Thank you so much for watching, participating. I appreciate it immensely. Sending you lots of positive health, wealth, love, and happiness because you deserve it. We'll see you soon.